we're recording. All right. Hey, everybody. It's Trisha LaDouceur here. It's Thursday evening, and we are here to create a few scrapbook tags. I have my dear friend Lori here. I'm going to pan over so she can say hello. There's Lori. Lori's here, and she's going to make she's going to make all the tags with me tonight. Most of you gals that are probably tuning in tonight, hopefully you've already received your kits. If you've not received them yet because you're overseas, know that they're en route, and the computer is recording this episode tonight, so you'll be able to watch it again and again and complete your tags with no problems. So what I'm going to do first is, why don't I show you the tags up close? Of course, I showed you all the sneak peeks on Facebook and on the Artsy Adventure blog. But here's a look at what we're going to be creating. Now listen, I am in my kitchen, so the lighting is not, optimum tonight. But this will give you a little bit of an idea, and just bear with the imperfections, okay? So this is the first tag we're going to create. It's the Merry Christmas tag, and we are using the lantern, the Tim Holtz. All of these dies are Sizzix Tim Holtz dies that I'm using tonight, and I do have one Couture Creations that I'll show you in a little bit. So this is the first tag we're going to create. A few fun techniques on here, but it's pretty simple to get started. The second tag is the Believe tag, and this is actually, I have to apologize right now. I have a really whiny dog tonight, so you're going to hear some squealing every now and then, and I don't know what I'm going to do with him. If I might end up getting up and throwing him down in the basement too, just so we don't have to hear him. So if I run away, that's why. Because I've got my other puppy locked up, and he really doesn't like that. I'm going to take him down. Lori's going to keep you entertained for a minute, okay? Lori?
Okay.
Say hi.
Hi.
Talk to him. Keep my friends out in the internet world happy.
And how cold, tell them how cold it is
here?
here.
Tell them all about our white Christmases.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you there's a few of them that don't have that.
Oh, I bet you there is too. I would like to be there, that's for sure. But I did come out on a cold night to do this, so I thought they were rather cute, so I traveled over to do them. So Trisha always does good stuff, so I like doing her. I've done some of her kits and that before, so I thought it was worth traveling out in the cold to come and do this. So
all right,
she's back.
I pray they're not going to give us too much grief tonight, but I have a feeling we will.
They'll be fine.
I'm going to be straight up. I have two puppies, two Boston Terriers. Well, the lovely little girl, it's her first heat. Need I say more? Oh, yeah, it's been a great day. So, needless to say, because they're both pups, their appointment to get fixed is the first week of January. Not good timing on my part. So, it's been a little stressful keeping two dogs separated. Oh well, hopefully they don't make too much noise, or at least hopefully we don't hear it down here. Okay, so back to this tag, as I'm out of breath from running up and down the stairs. This is the Believe tag, and it is a little gift card holder, so at this time of year, are you like me? Every now and then, get a little bit lazy with that Christmas shopping? Much rather do gift cards, so at least this is a nice way to present it rather than just throwing them a plastic card in a little paper envelope and saying Merry Christmas.
26-year-old, he wanted to go and get us presents. I said, just get us gift cards. He says, no, Mom, those are very impersonal.
Some people think that, but you want to know the truth? My boys prefer gift cards.
Yeah.
And I know my mom's probably not watching, so I can say, they usually love getting gift cards from Granny, and Granny went shopping this year instead.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. My one son was thrilled with her purchases. The other one was like, she should have, maybe done the gift card. Just because it didn't fit.
Yeah,
he loved what he got, just the wrong size. So, you can't win them all, right? So these are Very fun alternative to just throwing it in a
Mm-hmm.
paper envelope. And of course, using the same concept, you can switch them up and do them for any season, not just Christmas. The third card. This is a little more fun, I think. Some fabulous dies, as well as one of the Tim Holtz embossing folders. You can see where it's a little bit embossed there. We're going to play with the tattered pine cone. This has got to be my favorite die of all time. I happen to love this die, but a lot of people, they're not sure what to do with it or how to do it. Of course, the master, Tim Holtz, has brilliant tutorials on how he does it. Um, and I do it pretty much the same. I found one or two tricks that may or may not help. We've used some of the Ranger sticky back canvas on chipboard. Now these kits, those of you that have already ordered, I do have a couple left over if anybody's interested. I will tell you, I spent 2 days doing all of the die cutting for you. So you've got everything you need in each of the kits to create these tags. You just need your inks and whatever else along those lines. But all the die cutting's been done, so it's not like you have to worry about running to the store and trying to find all of them. Finally, the last tag is, I think this is my favorite tag. I really do think it's quite pretty. This Noel tag. Again, in the background, there's some embossing that's been done. And yep, I did that for you too. Another one of the carved ornaments. And this little doily in the background. In North America, up here in Canada anyways, I haven't seen too much of them, but they're an Australian company called Couture Creations, and they make this doily die, and they actually have a few different doilies, but I fell in love with it. And to those of you who might be out in Ontario, I'm teaching at Scrap Fest in April in Kitchener, and guess what? We're going to be playing with a whole bunch of couture creations, so you'll want to watch for my classes at that one. Anyways, again, super fun tag, kind of that beautiful romantic shabby chic look. Something a little bit less traditional Christmas color-wise, but nonetheless, I think it's still gorgeous. So anyways, we are not going to waste too much time. We're going to get rockin' and a-rollin'. The first kit we are going to open up is the Merry Christmas kit. If you have this one, or if you ordered the kit, sorry, you can go ahead, open up all the little pieces in here and spread them out. Now, what we'll probably end up doing with this one is doing part of it and then coming back to it just because the dry time involved. The first thing we are going to do, you have a die cut piece of chipboard in the lantern shape. You will want to take your black acrylic paint, and often, because we don't want it to get too messy, if you want to, Lori, there's a roll of paper towel there for you left. Just go ahead and take, I'm going to tilt this camera down so you guys can see what I'm doing now. And I always have to try to remember to work upside down, so bear with me. Now some of these, I don't even think this paint dauber's been used before. It's been sitting in my stash for a while, so let me just get her going. I might just have to take my piercer and give it a little poke. Or I may have to borrow Lori's when she's done. Oh, that's me, Pooch. My dog heard me banging my paint. When Lori's done, I'm going to use hers. Yeah, just blob it all on there. You don't have to worry about being perfect. Of course, if you don't have black paint, you can also use black ink. You could use a black glimmer mist or spray of some sort. What else could you use? Anything that's going to make it black, really. It doesn't really matter what you use. So I'm just covering the entire surface of that. And with the daubers, I like to use them because if you kind of stipple that paint on a little bit, it's going to give a little bit more of a texture. So we are going to set that piece aside to dry for a few moments. Now, hey, I should tell you too, I always forget to check the chat. So not sure if you girls are signed in. If you are, you know, chat amongst yourselves. I'll try to check in every now and then. And just forgive me if I don't get to it quite fast enough. Anyways, okay, so I'm setting that little thing aside to dry. The next piece we are going to take, there's the Merry Christmas in there. And you may have to take a paper piercer. I put that red one there for you, Lori, to poke out all those little inner bits in between all the different letters and such. There's some pretty tiny little pieces there, but I just use my piercer and simply poke it all through. Now, these were die cut out of the Tim Holtz Resist paper, the Craft Resist. So it's kind of fun to play with because what's
Christmas one?
Yeah, this is the Christmas stack, and I don't know if you can see in the camera. Yeah, you're catching a little bit of the shine that's on there. And all I did is I took my fired brick distress stain, give it a little shake. Yeah, I put one out for you. I'm going to put paper towel underneath because, you know, I really don't like to clean up more than necessary. So simply going to just blot that on there. Now, of course, that distress stain is not going to penetrate the resist pattern on there, but that's what's so cool about this is you're going to have some of the natural craft color, some of the black print, and then some of the red. So just blot it all on, and again, we're going to let that dry for a minute and likely come back to it. And then even what works quite nicely before it gets too dry, see, I have a big resist part there, so I'm just going to take my paper towel and blot off some of the excess off the top, and that will remove the distress stain from the resist. And then actually it's probably dry enough where we can carry on to the next step. I tore my letter a bit, but when I glue it back together, nobody will notice. No. So anyways, you can see that it picked up some of the red. Then what we are going to do, and it's up to you if you want to use glossy accents or crackle accents. On this one, I think I used a crackle. Or I could have cracked it on my own when it curled up. But use whichever one you want. I just happened to grab the crackle accent, so that's what this one's going to be. And these have been sitting around for a while, so if you need to poke it, Lori, because some of them I just found a whole bunch of bottles and pulled them out. So the key with this is you want to make sure that you get a good solid coverage over the entire surface. And it'll take you a minute or two. And you just want to I always try to make sure I get right to the edge of the letters. Like some people just kind of put it down the center. But especially with the crackle accents, what happens is as that crackle accent starts to dry, it actually recedes a little bit. So you really, really want to make a good effort to try to keep it as close to the edge as possible so it doesn't pull back and leave big empty spots, right? Oh, really? Oh. Crackle accents, aside from being really fun to say, say it 5 times fast and get a little bit of fun going with it. But seriously, crackle accents is probably one of my favorite products. Now, it does take a little while to dry, okay? So, truthfully, we'll probably do the prep work on this one and come back and assemble it at the end. Just because we don't want to stick our fingers in. And we're going to cover the letters on this one, but any of the other ones, chances are you'll do that part for homework because you don't want it to get ruined on your way home, but we'll get everything ready. So all you have to do is put it on and leave it out. I usually say you want to allow at least a couple hours for it to dry, depending where you live, that can, and how heavy you put it on, so on and so forth. You know, that can influence the dry time you need. Getting through it slowly but surely. This one is a detailed die cut. This is one of the dies off the Tim Holtz Christmas strip, and there's a few different sayings on there. There's the Merry Christmas, there's a Season's Greetings, the number 25, and then Joy to the World. And Joy to the World we're actually using on one of our other tags. I should try to check in this chat here. Let me see if I can pull that up so you girls can make sure I'm not missing anything. Is anyone saying anything? Let's see. Where's the refresh button on here? Okay, I'm not seeing the... Girls, are you chatting? I cannot tell because it doesn't seem to be showing me the chat. Okay, forgive me, I'm probably not going to be watching the chat so much. If there's any questions, how about you do this? If you have an imperative question, drop me an email and I'll check my email every couple of minutes, okay? And just put video question or something in the subject line just so that I know that I need to look at that one while we're doing this here. Yeah, we'll set that aside to dry as soon as we've got it covered. I'll move that right out of the way. In case you're not sure what my email address is, it's trisha.lado@gmail.com. So trisha.lado@gmail.com. So if you have any questions, just drop me a quick email. Okay, so here is the Merry Christmas, and I covered it completely with the crackle accents. So I'm just going to move this aside to dry. Just give me a moment. And I might try to take it off the paper towel because I don't want it to, or will it be okay? I wonder. I think with my luck it would probably stick. So I'm just going to try to carefully. Oh, see, that's smart. So I'm going to tend to. There. Okay, so that's that one. What else in this one do we have for prep work? How about we start with some of these tattered pine cones? In your kit, you have a die-cut pine cone along with a toothpick. And these are the two items you need in order to make an adorable little pine cone. Now the cool thing with these pine cones is you can also make roses with them, but that's for another day. I'm going to leave this here kind of in the background where you can kind of see what we're doing. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to start by, now I refer to these little things on the pine cone as petals, only because when you make a rose, they'd be petals. I don't know the exact terminology. But basically, you just use your fingernail, and we want to start to break up the fibers. So we do that just by kind of going around and just curling them almost. Just almost folding those petals in half, maybe rubbing it with your fingernail just to start to curl it. That's the best way to term it. Exactly, because eventually we're going to be wrapping this around our toothpick. So if we loosen up the paper a little bit, it's a lot easier to work with. So you just work your way from the outside and go all the way in. Right into the center. Once you get to the center, then I'm going to start, and I'm going to take the ends of those petals and I'm going to kind of curl them back. I'm going to see if you take the tip there, take the tip and just curl it back like you would a flower. Okay, and again, that's just loosening up the fibers in the paper there to be a little bit easier when we go to actually create our pine cone.
Go all the way around.
Yeah, go all the way around again. And it doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to be doing a lot of manipulating with it. And this is one of those things that your first one you might kind of think, I don't know about that. But after you do it a couple times, you got the hang of it, the technique down, I promise you this will really impress you. So something like this, I always say you have to do 3 times to get it. So we're doing 1, 2, 3.
There you go.
Yeah. So then you won't forget. You'll have lots of practice with them tonight.
Okay, I bought the die last year.
Oh, really? Oh, you'll love it now. Okay, so there we go. We've gone ahead and wrapped, or sorry, rolled those petals a wee bit. Now I'm going to take my toothpick and I'm simply going to grab a drop of hot glue right on the tip. You don't want to burn your fingers, okay? Be careful. Just a tiny little drop right at the tip. Then what you're going to do, starting from the outside of your circle here, your spiraled circle. Starting from the outside, very carefully, you're going to pinch that first petal right around that toothpick. Don't burn your finger. Okay? You probably will, but you know the trick where you got to roll it and jump up and down 5 times and it'll stop burning. And then you're simply going to take that and start rolling. Once you've pinched that first petal on and let it cool, it should be pretty easy to start rolling. And as you're rolling that toothpick, as you're spinning it around, you're gradually going to move down the toothpick. And don't worry about it being perfect right off the bat. I used to worry about getting every petal perfectly placed and it would take me forever. Basically, I think it's easier now just to roll it, get those petals wrapped right around that toothpick. Because once you've got it wrapped around, then what you'll notice is you can kind of loosen it and tighten it just by spinning. Do you see that? And you can move it up and down the toothpick there to make it, one of the longer pine cones or a little bit chubbier. So you just play around until you get it in the position you like it. And once you've got it pretty much as tight as you want, as big as you want, and you can take those petals, and especially the lower ones, just kind of roll them back out a bit, give them a little bit more dimension. Those last couple. And then I'm simply going to grab another drop of glue. Excuse my reach. And on that very last petal there, do you see that, Lori? No, right on that last petal at the bottom of the stem.
Yeah.
If I push my glue stick and get it running, there we go. Okay. I've just put it on that very last petal. And that will be enough to secure your pine cone. Ouch. Yeah. It's, kind of crazy, that hot glue. And then once it's glued into place. Like I say, you can just go and fluff those petals a wee bit. Give them a little squish or a little roll. Can you see that, girls? I'm not so sure why my chat's being all wonky, but I'm just going to check my email real quick to see if any of you girls have asked anything. Of course, for some reason I'm not logged in. Okay. All right, so no major questions just yet, but that's cool. No news is good news. I don't know what I'm doing wrong with this chat, so I'm really sorry, girls. Usually we can chit-chat a little better than this. I'll figure it out. It's been a while since I've been on Ustream, so change things a slight bit, I think. Anyway, so there's our pine cone. All right. We can set that aside to just dry a little bit longer. And then what we're going to do in our little baggie, actually, let's start with the tag. How's that? Because that's going to probably need a minute or two to dry up. We are going to start with our tag here. And I did have a couple of different colors of distress ink on the supply list. But look, it's not mandatory that you have all the different ones that I listed. I simply put them as suggestions. Basically, reds and greens is what I was going for. And all we're going to simply do is using our foam blending tool.
Which one is it? The evergreen?
Yeah, I've got the evergreen bough here, and then festive berries, I think. And then if I want to use a bit of barn door, a little bit darker of a red. And all we're going to do is just start to lay some color on this tag. So we are simply just tapping. You don't need to grind your blending tool into the ink pad. We're simply just tapping and just randomly getting little bits of color, working in a circular motion. We don't want to pounce it because then you're going to end up with big squares, right? We're simply working in a circular motion. And switch out your colors. Do a little bit of red, a little bit of green. If you want to do a couple different shades of red and a couple shades of green, that's fine too. There's no right or wrong to this. Whoops. Just blending on some color there. And no two will ever be the same. There's so many different variables that come into play when you're working with these distress inks. But I just keep building it up, getting darker and darker until I'm happy with where it's at. And then I think I even went in and I took a little bit of brown. Just to see how bright that is in comparison. I went in with a little bit of brown just to kind of distress it a little bit. Give it a little bit more of a vintage look so it's not too bright. And I always like my edges darker, so I tend to pick it up and go direct to the edge with that foam blending tool just to really define it. And just keep going, keep building up that color. Yeah, I've got some walnut stain. I've got, yeah, there's one that's open there, Lori, if you want to use that. And just keep going back and forth, adding all different colors. There's a little bit of this ice spruce too. That's a really pretty, it's like a grayish green almost. It's not quite as bright as the other. Now, if you wanted to, you could also take some stamps and do a little bit of stamping on here just to add even some more visual interest. But I'm kind of liking how this is going. I'm kind of happy with that. I don't mind that so much. Yeah, yours coming beautiful. So the key is to work lightly and gradually build up the color. It tends to be a little less streaky that way. So if you gradually just, lightly tap, you don't need to pounce your ink blending tool into the ink pad. Just give it a little tap, and you would be surprised at how far that ink will go. And you don't need to press hard at all. So I'm going to set these aside for a moment. Cover them all up so they... No, I actually leave my ink pads out all night long without their lid. I've left them out for days. In fact, I think I left one of them open on my way to Australia and it still worked, which is amazing, if you ask me.
They say that put them upside down.
Yeah,
Right?
sometimes they do. And the thing is with distressing, you just have to give it a little spritz of water and it reactivates it. So that's really kind of cool too. So as beautiful as this is, I mean, you could leave it plain, but it's Christmas and bling is a very good thing. I'm actually going to break out my brand new Heidi Swap Color Shine. This isn't mandatory that you do it, but this is going to add a nice, subtle coat of gold to our card or our tag. So I'm just giving it a little shake. I'm actually giving it a big shake. There we go. And see, do you hear that? You know what that is? That's one of those little balls in the mist so that you can shake it up with ease. Some of the other ones, as you know, sometimes you could be waiting forever for those glimmer particles to come off the bottom. But with that little metal ball in there, it's like a nail polish bottle where it mixes it up really, really nice. So anyways, if you have not worked with this spray before, let me give you a couple of quick tips on this, okay? As mentioned, you want to mix it up absolutely every time you go to spray. Make sure you shake it up and mix it up and get all those particles off the bottom. Otherwise, what's going to happen, those particles, when you push the pump on your bottle, they're going to get sucked up in that little straw or the little tube in there, and it's going to plug it up. When you are spraying, okay, when you are spraying, you want to make sure, and I always call it commit to the mist. And what I mean by that is you want to make sure that you are pushing that pump down all the way. You don't want to be one of those people that hesitates. Yeah, you got to just commit. And when you're spraying, keep your hand moving. Imagine a guy painting a car, right? You can use that, Lori. A guy painting a car, he's not going to hold that spray paint. You don't need to shake it, it'll be fine. He's not going to hold that spray paint in one place. He's going to keep his arm moving so that you gradually build up the color rather than getting one concentrated spray. Now this is going to soak in quite nicely. And the really cool thing about Heidi's new Color Shine is the color's pretty intense. And so is the shimmer in it. The shimmer is undoubtedly probably the most solid coverage. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, can you see how that all of a sudden, yeah, you're picking up the reflection on there. Really nice. It's beautiful. And then, of course, the cool thing is if you wanted to go and darken the background a little more, maybe you decide, you know what? I want to add just a little bit more red in a few spots. There is no reason why you cannot add ink over top of your color shine. So as mentioned, you just keep going till you got the background that you like. When you've got the background you like, just go ahead and set it aside with everything else that's drying right now. You could take a heat gun to it, but you know what? It's going to dry so quickly, I wouldn't worry about it. If it starts to curl, just kind of roll it back in the opposite direction. I hear my dog barking. We're going to ignore him. All right, how's that lantern doing?
Actually, I think over top of it is good because you got that spray.
It gives it the little swirly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You get different highs and lows that way. But it's really a matter of preference. So there's no right or wrong. You can do what you want with it. Then what we're going to do in our little kits, now this is one of those little tedious things. I actually took Tim's tattered garland. Now you have to be careful because you got a couple little red berries in there, okay? There's little red pearls, and those are the berries for the holly. But anyways, take out those die cuts. Maybe leave the berries in there for the time being. And using your brown ink. Now, whether you use walnut stain, there's the newer gathered twigs, there's frayed burlap, really whatever brown you want is fine. Now, most of you girls know that I am all about lumps and bumps. I really don't like to do projects that are what I refer to as flat. For some people, that's great. For me, not so much. So taking a plain die cut like that, we're going to give it a little bit of life. And to start, I'm basically, if you imagine a leaf and it's got the, what do you call it? Like I call it the vein, or like the stem that kind of runs through the middle of the leaf.
Yeah.
I basically fold my die cut and then ink it. Ink it along that fold in the center, and then open it back up and go around those edges. Not too heavy. We want to keep it pretty light. Just enough to give it a little bit of definition, okay? And you can go ahead and ink as many of those pieces as you want. It's not a matter of being perfect. It's a matter of getting a little bit of color on there. Just to give those leaves some visual interest. You could also go in with a different shade of green maybe if you wanted. Really, the sky's the limit as far as choices are concerned. I think there's, yeah, 3 or 4 in there. And I gave you extra pieces. I basically just gave you a handful of everything there. I don't think I used all of them on the tag. I don't think I used that pine cone one, like the big green one.
Right.
I don't think I used that one.
Is that what it is? Like the thing with like a little tree?
You know what? It could be a
tree.
tree. You could use it as a tree. I think the way he has it displayed on his packaging and such as a pine cone, because you could cut these in all different colors, and of course, you know, but it would make a cute little tree actually. That's a good one.
Sure.
Yeah.
What it is?
It could go either way, couldn't it? So hey ladies, I'm going to finish this one up, and then I want to show you, I know a lot of you girls have been waiting. As you may or may not have heard, I have recently launched my new class kit club, the Artsy Adventure class kits, and I promised you ladies that I would show you on tonight's class the actual project, more than just the sneak peek. So I'm going to show you the first project, which we will be doing in January. The cool thing about the Kit Club is that now most of you guys that have taken my classes over the years know that I really try to give you really good kits. Try to keep it a very excellent value for your dollar. So the kits are always going to be jam-packed with as much as I can get in there and justify to my husband. But you will also get a PDF PowerPoint with very detailed instructions and photos. And every month I will be doing a video just like this to walk you through different techniques in the project. I'm not going to say I'm going to do the whole class online. Maybe occasionally I might. But the idea is to walk you through some of the different techniques that are sometimes a little bit easier to figure out visually rather than having to read instructions, right? Okay, so there we go. I've done enough inking. Well, maybe I better ink this little swirly bit. And these little greenery bits here, just adding a little bit of ink. Okay, so I think we've got the prep work for this one pretty much done. I'm thinking, you know what? I think this might be, how dry is your lantern there? Merry Christmas is going to be very wet. But your lantern, is it good enough for now?
Seems like it is.
Cool. Okay, so there's two choices for this next part. For the lantern, you can use either glossy or crackle accents and cover your lantern. Again, that'll just give, you know, a little bit more oomph to it. You could leave it plain black, or you could try the, this is so cool, this stuff. This is the Distress Crackle Paint. It's clear rock candy. It's very similar to the crackle accents in that when it dries, you're going to get the little cracks, but it's not as juicy, if that makes sense. You will notice if you choose to use this, that you just simply paint it on. And this is the trick with any crackle paint. The heavier you put it on, the more defined your cracks are going to be. Yeah, that's my phone dinging. Here, if you want to try that, go ahead, Lori. What did I do with my baby wipes? Put them right here. Once I've got that on my lantern, again, I'm going to set it aside to dry because it's going to take a little bit of time. See, it's a good night for trying stuff in there. I always like to give you alternatives because sometimes, you know, those supply lists of things that you have to have can be pretty lengthy. And if there's alternatives, I will certainly let you know. And it's one of those things I always tell people, you know, nobody's going to have mine to compare it to. So if you want to change it up, by all means, go ahead and do so. Okay, so I've got my lantern set aside to dry, our pine cone set aside. We did the inking on our tattered garland and our little holly bit, so we'll set that aside. We'll keep all those little bits and pieces together. We will come back to this tag at the end. So maybe I'll put all those inked bits back into my big plastic bag just so I don't lose any of the little pieces, because I know I will otherwise. I'm a messy scrapper. Very messy. You've seen my studio, Lori.
This is near home. It's like a little pod.
I'm spread out throughout my house every time. It's the first time in this house I've actually sat at the kitchen table, though, because I do have a studio and I do have a room in the basement, but you know, I thought tonight I'm going to be comfortable. Okay, so we've got the first tag set aside. We're going to let that dry. Now we're going to carry on and do a real quick one, so it feels like we're accomplishing something here. This second tag is the Believe tag. Now we're going to go ahead and assemble it. However, you will notice that on that little label holder there, there's some crackle accents. You might want to do that for homework, or, well, you might have time to leave it out to dry, Lori. I'm just worried about whether or not it's going to be too wet for you to go home with. Okay. But, you know, play it by ear. That one might be okay. The next one might be pushing it. So I'm going to dump out the contents of this kit. Now this tag base was also the Tim Holtz tag, so I die cut
I love it. I use
that
it a lot.
as well. Now, you know the one thing I forgot was a scoring blade. So I am going to run and grab my scoring blade for us. Because I don't think I put that on the supply list.
No, I don't remember that.
I think I would leave on that one. In my, usually when I do my videos, I do it in my studio and I have right there.
Yeah.
I don't have to run. Okay, so sorry girls, you will need a scoring blade or your trimmer or something here. And all you need to do is you have a striped piece of paper. You will notice that it's short and tall, right? It's not a completely perfect square. Your stripes are going to be running up and down. So what that means, I want you to score a 1/2 inch in on 3 sides. So both short sides and one bottom. I believe this is 3.5 by 4. So that means you're going to line up one end at 3 and score, and then flip it and go 3.5, and then do a 180. And what this is going to do, it's the pink blade there. What this is going to do is allow us to create a pocket with these 3 sides. So then what I'll do is take a pair of scissors, and I refer to it as the intersection. We're going to cut right through the intersection. So what that means is right where those 2 points meet, right where the score lines meet right there, we're going to cut it at an angle so that when we go to fold our papers back, it's going to lay flat instead of being all buckled. So just trim right through the intersection, just on those 2 corners. Yeah, so that means you'll line up the one edge at, okay, so go to 3 that way.
3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then take it out and flip it.
Flip it and do 3.
Other way. So 3.5 and then 3.5. Okay. So we've got what is going to become our little pocket. Now we want to take it one step further. I like to create almost like a library pocket, you know, that little semicircle kind of at the top there, just to make it easier to get in and out of that pocket. And to do that is actually really simple. I'm just going to use a circle punch. Doesn't matter if you use a 1 inch. This is probably about 1.5. Just find your center spot or approximate center as close as possible. And you'll notice that I'm only putting it in part way. And that's because I don't want to punch an entire circle out. I just want to make a little notch at the top of the pocket. So as simple as that, just cut a little concave shape out of the top there. Now I use walnut stain. Do you need a hand there, love? So you've got 3, that way you should have done 3 inches on one side.
Yeah, because I just didn't, it didn't
Oh, it didn't go all the way through.
square.
Oh, because
Sorry.
if it's not flat on the table,
Oh, is that right?
yeah, then it'll be kind of wonky. So you can go, no, don't apologize. So come bring it down on this side just because of the, so go 3 inches that way. Okay. 3.5, and then flip it and do 3.5 again.
It just wasn't scoring.
No, that's okay. So I'm taking my pocket, and before I glue it on, I want to actually ink the edges. So I just used walnut stain. This is Graphic 45 paper, actually, and it's from the Fashionista collection. So truthfully, girls, it's a couple years old. I think it's at least a couple years old, but it's one of those timeless patterns, I think. I think Graphic 45, that's what's so great about their products is they're not too trendy. Really, they're timeless. And the funny thing is like I say, this isn't even really technically a Christmas paper, but I thought it worked really well for what I wanted to do. Yeah, at an angle. Yeah. And that makes it a little bit easier to have that pocket lay flat. All right, so I've inked the edges of my tag as well as the pocket. Now what I'm going to do is I want to take some strong double-sided adhesive. And you know, truthfully, for little pockets like this that are going to get manhandled, I like to use my red line tape just because I really do think that it's one of the stickier ones available. It's not as fast and convenient because you got to sit there and pick off the liner, but old habits die hard, I guess. Everybody gets their favorite adhesive going. And for this particular task, this is what I like to use. And I've just put the adhesive on the 3 little flaps there that are part of this back side of the pocket. And then, see, I have those funny, I refer to them as chiclet nails. So they're kind of awkward to work with, so I just use a paper piercer or the tip of my scissors just to very easily lift. Do you need some? Oh, you've got? Here, go ahead and use that. It might be a little awkward getting it on there. There we go. So I've just removed the adhesive on 3 sides. Now I want to put this on my tag probably about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. I don't have it lined up right to the bottom. There is a little bit of a gap, and there might be, you know, a little bit of room on either side, which is totally fine. You just want to get it on there straight. So our pocket is on. So you're going to be able to slide something inside of there. Now, then, let's see, here it is. I gave everybody, this is 7 Gypsies paper tape. And it's kind of like the washi tape idea. However, it has the liner on the back, which makes it really good to go into kits because you can just give a little sampling of it. Anyway, simply going to remove that liner off the back, and we are going to place it right underneath the opening on our pocket. I'm going to get it on there as straight as possible. And it's just in lieu of putting ribbon on, right? Just breaks it up a little bit. And I simply just wrap the ends around the back. I suppose you could trim it if you wanted, but I just put that there. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip it over. And right along that bottom edge, we are going to put another thin strip of adhesive. Can I get a little touch of that there, though? I'll make sure I'm not going too far ahead of you there. And I'm just going to put a strip of adhesive. Notice how it's pretty much flush with that bottom edge. And that's because we're then going to take the Prima lace. The Prima lace is this cream stuff here. And that's going to extend from the bottom of the tag on the back side so that we don't see the straight edge. We only see the scallop from the front. That was for my Aussie friends, scalloped. How do we say scalloped here in Canada?
Scallop.
You say scalloped? See,
Yeah.
you're proper. Usually we say scalloped.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Okay.
However, I was corrected by my Aussie friends when I was down there this year. And they brought up a good point because my son, it drives him crazy when I say scalloped. But I have a gal down there who has come to my classes a couple of times. Sweet Miss Jenny near Sydney. And she's a school teacher. And she brought up a good point. how do you say, or how do you spell ball? B-A-L-L.
Oh,
Ball.
okay.
Call. Tall.
Mm-hmm.
Fall. Well, scalloped is also spelled S-C-A-L-L,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it should be the ah instead of the ah. But, you know, tomatoes, I suppose.
No, our English language is very hard sometimes.
You know, it really is. It's one of those funny things. So see how that pretty lace just hangs down from the bottom? Then you have a little piece of basil rickrack trim. That rickrack I just took across the bottom of the tag. I've wrapped those ends around, and then using my handy dandy tiny attacher, and I'll wait for you to get caught up here.
Sorry, how did you go up on this one?
It's right,
right
beneath that little opening there. Anyways, just taking my tiny attacher and stapling that ribbon onto either side at the bottom of the tag. Now you could use a regular stapler, but you guys know why this is like the big deal, right? A lot of people kind of wonder, well, yes, I love Tim Holtz, but why on earth do I need a stapler that really is quite expensive, right? Sure, it does little staples, right? However, this bad boy goes through just about anything. You can staple through grunge board, chipboard, some different plastics you can go through. Things that normal staplers typically would not penetrate. This works wonders. So that's why I use it. Yeah, you'll want to trim off the excess there. So that's the base of the tag. Now we are going to take our little label. We've got this little label, and on the inside, some of them might have popped out already. If they didn't, you're just going to trim out that inner oval. See how this little ring is pretty easy to come out? It's because I die cut several at once. But I want that opening a wee bit bigger. So if you need to go in and clean up any of those edges from where you pull out that inner circle, go ahead and do so. Then I didn't want it to stay that craft color. I actually used my distress ink and very carefully going to build up the color onto that tiny little label or label holder. Yeah, take out the middle part just because we need that opening a little bit bigger. I pre-stamped the word believe for you, and so I needed it a little bit bigger for it to fit. So I cut out that inner oval. Sometimes it'll just pop out. Other times you need to give it a bit of a helping hand there. Okay, so again, depending how dark or intense you want that red, that's totally up to you. And then our word believe. I just used one of Tim's stamps, stamped it onto a manila file folder. Wasn't worried about cutting it all pretty because you've got some work to do there with it. But then I'm just going to take my distress ink blending tool. This had the walnut stain on it, and I don't even really need to add more ink because chances are there's enough on there just to distress it. We're just adding a little bit of brown. I didn't want it to be too stark, too white. Now, what you'll notice is once we've removed that inner oval from your label folder, it should fit pretty nicely on top. And it'll show you that word believe. Now, my little trick for this is I like to use glossy accents to glue this little label into place. And you don't need a lot, just enough to hold it on. So just run that glossy accents around the back side. Glossy accents will act as a glue in a pinch. The downside is more often than not, it's a little slower drying. So for some things, it's not always your best option, but for this, it works just fine. I've glued that little label holder on, and for just a couple of minutes while we carry on to the next step, we're going to let that dry, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to trim that with ease, okay? So we'll just set the believe aside for a moment. Now we need to make these flowers. So these were with the brand new tattered poinsettia die from Sizzix and Tim. Yeah, it's a stunning die. It's absolutely beautiful. But as mentioned, I'm not about the flat. I like lumpy bumpy. So we're going to add a little bit of dimension to those little flower pieces. So to do that, simply grab the flower in the center between your thumb and your forefinger. Lift the petal up and then curl the ends back. Lift the petal up, curl the ends back. And you are going to continue that. I think you have 3 different sized flowers in your kits. You're going to do that to all 3 flowers. Don't worry about them being absolutely perfect and uniform right now, because once you go to actually build this flower, you'll be able to reposition slightly and make it poofier where you need it, flatter in other spots. I use the dotted side, but of course it's totally up to you. Okay. It's totally up to you how you want it. Just about got it. And then of course, if you wanted, you could also add a little bit of ink just to keep it consistent with the rest of the tag. So I'm just going to go around and add a touch of the walnut stain just to the tips of the petals. Of course, if you wanted to go in and add red or green instead, you know, you could do that too. No, I did something to my shoulder today. And no, it just, I don't know if it was lifting the dogs or what the deal was. It's like it needs to be popped back in or something. Every now and then when I move it the wrong way, I can get that little shot all the way up my arm. No, never been to a chiropractor in my life. My sister swears by him. She's one of those people that took her babies to chiropractors when they got a cold. Yeah, to me that's, you know, well, I better be careful and, you know. Yeah, I don't get it personally. Yeah. You know, I've never liked the sound of cracking joints. So, and it's probably because that very sister used to crack her knuckles, every single joint in her body. So I think that's probably where I developed my fear of chiropractors from. But she is diehard and swears by them. Goes to chiropractor for everything. Me, myself, I'll suffer. Anyway, so I've got my 3 flowers. So then I'm going to use a little bit of glue. Now, you know, I ran out of fabric tack, which if you guys know me, that never happens. That has never happened, actually, in about 5 years. I've never run out of fabric tack. Oh, Michael's has it. Treasured memories. They sell out of it quickly, though. I don't think she's had any in a while. No. But anyway, so this was a glue I picked up in Australia. They swore by it, said it was good, so I guess we'll find out. We are going to simply just build up our flower here. So I just put a little drop of glue in the middle. And I'm going to offset those petals. Of course, I don't want them all lined up perfectly. I'm going to kind of stagger the position. And then in the center of that flower, in your kit, I gave everybody one of those little game tokens. Of course, your number is going to differ. I Couldn't make sure everybody had the exact same number. So just glue that game token into the center of your flower. There, that's where I want it. And whether you use liquid glue, you could also use a glue dot, I suppose, for that, but I've got the liquid glue right here. That's going to have to do. This glue isn't bad, actually. I don't think we can get it here, though. I've never seen it. Clear gel glue. Express it. This one is.
I find that fabric is too smells. It's too strong.
You don't like the smell? See, and I don't think that one has a smell.
The fabric one?
Yeah, some people say it does, but I compare it to zip dry. And zip dry, I actually don't let people use in my classes because it's so strong. So fabric tack doesn't, some people say they can smell some of it, but I don't know, I must be oblivious to it after all these years. So once you've got your flower built up, you can go ahead and just glue that almost to that upper corner of your pocket. You don't want to glue it above because then you won't get it in. So right up, almost right where that tape is, I think would almost be sufficient. So put a little dollop of glue where you want that flower and simply glue your flower into place. And of course you want to make sure your number is the right way. And I only say that because that's totally something I would do. I would glue it upside down. In fact, I probably have. Very simple already, and it's, you know, something like this you could customize. Really, if you wanted to do happy birthday, it almost doesn't even, it's not screaming Christmas, right? And that's the nice thing about this particular die. Or you could substitute it with any other flower die, and just having that ability to customize is always cool. So if you look in your kit, you're going to have one of the little reinforcers there. Now this is optional as to whether or not you want to go as far as inking that little piece and gluing it to the top right where the hole is. This little reinforcer, when I die cut all of the tags, it also die cuts these reinforcers. So I think because it's so tiny, I'll just use a dollop of glossy accents on the back. Yeah, make sure your writing's the right way up. That never hurts anyways. So I just added that little reinforcer at the top, and it just finishes it off. It keeps it looking a little more polished, right? Once you've got that on, you've got a black piece of ribbon, and I just simply stuck the ribbon through and of course just tied it. I didn't do a bow. I don't even think I did a knot on it because it's a twill ribbon. It'll hold its position pretty well. Now I did a little V cut in there, and I'm going to show you this only because you would not believe the number of people that don't realize that there's a trick to making a perfect V. If you know this, forgive me. Sometimes people will sit there and do one part and then try to line it up and go the other way. This is kind of the one-stop cut. If you take your ribbon right here, and it's camouflaging into my background there, take your ribbon and fold it in half. And then go ahead and from the outside, not the folded ends, the other edges, just cut at an angle. Oops, and don't use dull scissors. That's not like my Westcott's. What's up with these? Oh, these were the ones I used for wire cutting. Sorry. Anyways, then you get the perfect little notch. Ooh, my light in the kitchen here is not good. Sorry, girls, but you're getting it. You're figuring it out. Just notch the ends of your ribbon. Ta-da! Now, this should probably be dry enough now where we can go ahead and we're going to cut off this excess manila file folder. With all that ornate trim work around there, it could be really finicky if you had to try to cut it perfectly. So when I'm cutting things like this, I almost like to pull that edge back ever so slightly and put my scissors in at an angle, just so that they're going ever so slightly underneath the edge of the die cut. Does that make sense? Okay.
Unless mine's glued to the page too well.
You know, sometimes then you get to get
It's pretty
fancy, right?
It's pretty good.
That's why we just use a little drop of the glue. Yeah, I shouldn't be using wire cutting scissors for doing this, but it's working. My Westcotts, these are my favorite scissors. I have probably 50 pairs of them laying around this house. But every now and then. There. Oh, one tiny little corner I missed. See? Now we've cut off the excess there. And then what we are going to do, you're going to take a paper piercer and just poke through the holes. And in your kit, you had a couple of tiny little brads. And I'm just going to poke them through and, of course, fold those little arms back. Right to the other, there it is. There we go. So I've got the little brads in there. And then what you're going to want to do is pop it up onto the front of your pocket. So I grabbed some brand new pop dots. Do you need some foam squares or do you have? So you don't need a lot, maybe 2, 4, something like that, right on the back. How about we go with 3, that'll work. 3 foam squares right on the back, and then we're going to plop it up on your pocket. If I can get the backing off. I'm going to pop that up. You might need to tuck it ever so slightly underneath one of your flower petals. I'm going to turn it right way for a second so I can get it straight. And it doesn't matter where you put it. You can keep it higher, lower, whatever floats your boat. Nobody's going to have mine to compare it to, right? There we go. Now, this next step, what I did with my original, and if you look in the light, you can kind of pick up on it. I needed to set it out to dry for a good couple of hours. So we're not going to do it on this one tonight. If you're at home, you can go ahead and do it. You can put a nice juicy coverage of glossy or crackle accents just onto that label folder. And it does need to sit out and dry. So, or, I mean, if you don't want the crackle accents, leave it plain. It's just fine. But that's an alternative. That is what I did with my original, was the crackle. But in the class tonight, we're just going to leave it be. And if you want to put it on, you can do that at home or at a later time. So that's one down. Now, I promised these lovely gals here real quick, I'm just going to slide this over for a minute, that I would show the January kit for the Artsy Adventure Kit Club. This first kit is kind of a spin-off of one of the classes that I did this fall, the Cherish album, Cherish and Gratitude. This first month, oh, I can hear my crew getting home. Oh, hello guys. How are you?
Good.
Good, good. Sorry guys, my husband and kids just got home. They went Christmas shopping tonight.
Hello.
Hello. Huh? No, they hit them. Or else Logan's got it in his bag.
He's got his.
He's got his?
So I got hard stuff.
Oh, okay.
I'll get him on the weekend.
Okay, you can go back and shop for me later.
Nope.
No? Alright. Anyways, I gotta get back to this, guys. So, the dogs are both downstairs. Molly's in the bathroom. Down there. Because she was yapping. She's fine. She was sleeping. Alright, so anyways, this is the first class. Now, it's kind of almost too big, so I might just tilt this up for a minute here so you can see. So basically, it's one of Heidi's new memory files.
Downstairs together?
They were locked. She's got that door open. Okay, we might be in a little bit of trouble. Somehow, because I had my Molly in the bathroom, and now she's not in the bathroom. So how she got that door open? Well, I'm on the thing. Okay, you'll have to discuss it with me later. Sorry, guys. This could be a little bit of a crisis. Might be calling the bed in the morning. Anyways, we have got some really fun things. This little doodad here opens up, and we've got a whole bunch of pages in here for tons of photos, and more photos and pockets and tags. And then, wait, we're not done. We're going to open it up even more. And in here, this beautiful file folder is going to open up and reveal even more goodies. And then, finally, we're not done. See, there's a mini album in here, too. So this memory file class is almost sold out. It blew my mind how amazingly supportive all of you ladies have been. I made a lot, I think a couple dozen plus, and I think I have about 2 spots left. 2 or 3 for the January kit, and I'm pretty sure after tonight they'll go quick. So if by chance you didn't get in on the kit, you were waiting for that little reveal, hopefully you like it. It's full of, the kit is phenomenal. And for this particular kit, because I knew there'd be about 3 hours worth of cutting, I actually did all the pre-cutting of the papers for everybody. And I packed them so that everything's in the order that you need it, into separate baggies and separate sections, so on and so forth. It's a lot of time and effort went into it to make sure that these kits are going to be as easy as possible on you when you're at home going to assemble the project. I don't want to overwhelm you where, you know, you're not going to want to do it. And but of course I still want to make sure there's the challenge there and pushing you out of your comfort zone. So this is definitely one of my favorite projects in a long time. It does kind of carry on. This was the classes I mentioned from the fall. This is the Cherish or the Gratitude memory album. Same paper collection because I really love it and used a lot of it this year. So this is just another way of, you know, working with these memory files. So it's a nice extension. Maybe you have, you know, a family vacation and kids and, you know, you want to do a different file for all different occasions, right? This is Pink Paisley and Heidi Swap. Yeah, the 2 lines combined together. So it's really quite pretty. There's a few of these kits left from the fall time. All of the January kits will be mailed out the first week of January. So, of course, if you wanted one of the extra kits from the fall time added in there, just let me know. And if I've got it, I will certainly take care of it. But anyways, let's carry on. So that first tag I can see is still drying. So we're going to move on to the 3rd tag. And we'll keep plugging away. And we can always come back to the other stuff later. So the 3rd tag is this Joy to the World. Now this tag, again, has all kinds of goodies in there. We have got an embossed craft colored tag. I used Tim's musical note pattern to emboss all of these tags that were die cut. And be careful for the little bits and bobs in here, okay? We've got a couple of pine cones. You've got some holly leaves. Another die cut. This is the Joy to the World die cut. But what I'm after first, because we want these bad boys to start drying or while we're working on all the other things. So I'm going to pull out my seam binding and this Prima kind of scalloped trim and the chipboard die cut, the ornamental die cut. Now what I did is I actually used the Ranger sticky back canvas. I attached it to the chipboard and then I die cut the pieces that have been adhered together using the Vagabond and the die, of course. So then it comes out perfectly lined up and I'm not trying to match it up after the fact. So I've got my 3 pieces that I'm worried about to start, and then I need my red Distress Stain right in front of me here. And all we're going to do is just color it on. Nothing fancy. Let me tilt that down so you girls can see. So that's the ornament, and then I'm just going to squeeze some color onto this trim. This Distress Stain is great because it really easily alters. And of course, if you were worried about, dirty fingers or whatever, you could wear gloves. But anyone that knows me knows I've been doing this long enough. You know, when I used to teach for Tattered Angels, I used to get ladies finger painting with this stuff. Because there was always someone in the class that didn't like to get dirty, right? So anyways, we are going to make sure those are good and covered, and then we will set those aside for a moment to dry. Everything's got a little bit of dry time. This won't take long though, because we're not saturating it. We're just simply added enough color on there. If you saturated it, whatever, it's good. We've got a heat gun. You can always take the heat gun to it, and that'll help dry it up. Okay, so then we're going to take our tag, and I used Fired Brick because I used the Fired Brick Distress Stain. I'm going to kind of stick with the same shade of red. I didn't want to change it up too much. And I'm simply going to apply the color to my tag. And of course, most of you girls have probably worked with embossed stuff before, but if you haven't, what you are going to notice is that initially that colored ink really collects on the upper layer of the paper. So if you want to get the color into the recessed parts of the embossed portions there, you really want to work it. And again, you want to keep working in a circular motion, okay? You don't want to go back and forth because then it goes all stripy, and we want to have a nice solid coverage on there. I'm having nightmares about those dogs.
I know you are. Good job.
Whoa.
That's why they were so cold.
That's why. But I had the one locked up, so I don't know how she got out.
Wow.
He probably jumped at the door and hit the door handle or something. Anybody want to bust a terrier puppy in about 10 weeks?
Mom, you want to know how? That door, you lock Molly in that bathroom door upstairs, right? That door doesn't stop on the thing. So all thing we had to do was push up against the door and the door swings open.
Now someone tells me. I had no idea. Wow. Oh my. Say a little prayer, everybody, that we are not going to have puppies in a couple of months.
Not much we do about it now.
No, there's nothing you can do.
Mom.
Yeah, totally palm to the head moment.
Face palm.
Oh, let's totally pray. I love puppies. Don't get me wrong. But
I don't know.
and her vet appointment is like less than 2 weeks, and we were just slightly off.
I don't know. Watching him earlier.
Oh, wouldn't surprise me. Oh, yeah. Might almost be good because then, just stop. Okay, so I've got some ink on there. I went with the red, but of course, again, if you want to go in with a little bit of brown here and there is no reason why you can't.
No.
Yep. It's just totally whatever suits your fancy. And once you've got a good base on there, however you like it, you'll be good. Okay, so that's that one that's got a little bit of ink. In your kit, you have one of the tickets. You'll want to add a little bit of the walnut stain to the edges on that too. I'm one of those people that kind of believes if you're going to distress one thing on a project, you got to keep it consistent and do all of it.
Makes it endless.
It really does. It just polishes it up. Okay. And your little bits of greenery. Doing the same thing that we did first time around. Now, this particular piece here, you'll want to poke it and get all those little tiny bits out of there. I did learn a trick recently though. Some of these pieces with all the intricate detail work, when you're die cutting them, they can be hard to get off the die afterwards. They tend to get jammed in there and you have to kind of poke them out, so on and so forth. And somewhere along the line recently, somebody mentioned die cutting it with wax paper. So I did that. And it just springs right off of the die. And actually, this particular one was really pretty. We used them in another class, the wax paper ones, because they look like snowy little sprigs layered in with the green. It was really quite nice. So if you're having trouble with your dies sticking, give it a try. I was really impressed with that, actually. So I'm just going to go in and add a little bit of the distress ink, just as we did with the others. There's a little swirl here. I think there's a couple of holly leaves. Now these holly leaves happen to be a little bit larger, so a little bit easier to work with, I think. And again, creating that vein or stem down the center. And what I'll do is I'll show you the two side by side.
What are these from? These are Tim Holtz too?
These are Tim Holtz as well. This is from the holly branch die, the larger ones. And you actually get 3 different types of holly leaves, and I tried to mix them up for you guys so you'd have different shades of green. But if you notice, see one with the stem, one without it, just adds a little more life. And then with those folds, once we go to glue it all together, you can sculpt those leaves a wee bit. So my husband and kids went to West Edmonton Mall, which those of you girls that aren't local here, it was up until recently the world's largest mall. And I can only imagine how busy it was. I hate going to that place. I try to go only when I have visitors, maybe 1 or 2 times with the kids because they like to hang out there, but us locals know better. Stay away from West Ed, especially Christmas and back to school shopping. Yeah. We've got company coming over New Year's. She actually, my girlfriend Keisha is actually from the Bahamas. and she just moved to Vancouver this year. Her daughter's going
Why?
to, yeah, that's what I said. Why? She came in July or something, so it was beautiful, right?
Actually,
Anyway.
they still have no snow.
Yeah, well, right now they got hit pretty good yesterday, didn't they? Anyway, she's coming out here for New Year's. It'll be her first experience with an Edmonton winter. Coming from Bahamas, I don't know whether to laugh or feel sorry. He's in for a little bit of a rude awakening there. It's gonna be a little chilly, but it'll be fun. Okay, so this Joy to the World, again, you're going to want to poke out all those little bits in there. That's okay, what you making? Okay. Eggnog. Tis the season. Logan likes his eggnog. Oh, I can't stand this stuff. Yeah. Do you want some? Logan, can you offer Lori some Pepsi or something? She might need a refill. Or eggnog. Could you get her some more Pepsi? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've poked out all the little bits from my Joy to the World. And again, keeping it consistent. It's got little patches of white, or it might, depending where yours was actually die cut from on the paper. Might have more rather than less. I just used a touch of the walnut stain ink there. And now I think we're just about ready. Oh, we have to make 2 more pine cones. Haha. Have fun with that. So, again, we're going to curl those petals. Just kind of softening up the fibers in the cardstock. Just going to double check my emails, make sure nobody's... Don't see anything there. Just as a reminder, if you girls have any questions, for some reason, I don't know what I'm doing with this chat. I'm going to have to spend some more time on it and try to figure out why the chat's not working properly for me. Anyways, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email at trisha.latto@gmail.com. And I will answer them because, yeah, see, I'm just not getting the chat working properly. It's not showing me anything. And even when I try to refresh it, let me just check something. Yeah, it's just, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to have to spend time. I apologize for that. Normally the chat function is enabled, but it's not right now. And I don't want to spend too much time trying to figure it out. Okay, so now I've gone all the way in one direction. Now I'm going to fold those petals back. Ooh, look how fast Lori is. She's rocking. She like totally beat me on that one.
Oh, but you start at the outside or the inside?
Start at the outside. When you're wrapping it around the toothpick, you want to start at the outside and work your way to the middle. Don't burn your fingers. Yeah.
But they do work.
They do work quite well. And especially in this sort of task, you really do need that strong grip. Just letting it cool just for a second before I stick it on there. Because I'll burn my fingers like that.
Ooh, second attempt.
And it's good to start wrapping once you can tolerate having your fingers on the glue there. You know, it's one of those things where the more you practice, you kind of get a feeling for, you know, what you're doing. And last year, I think I made about, I did them for a class somewhere, and I pre-did the pine cones for them. I think I did like 200. So I became a pro, but my hand cramped for days from spinning that toothpick. I developed a little kink right in here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, you can play around. Now, one little tool, and I didn't break it out tonight, but I kind of discovered this week. I had, it was one of the Imaginess, I think like a quilling type tool or something, you know, the little spinner with the slit in it. And that worked really well to pull those petals back.
Yeah,
I forgot to pull it out tonight.
I got one of those at home, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe I wonder if that's why I got it. Oh, even for flowers.
Yeah.
That are like this.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think that's why I got it, because I had a guy with flowers. Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, it did. It worked quite well. So if you have one of those, know that it's a good way to
yeah, like my second one better.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of
once you play around. Mm-hmm. Once you do it a few times. And no two are, yeah, it's almost like a rose. I mean, the only difference with this, if it were a rose, instead of wrapping that pine cone down and dropping it down, a rose you'd keep wrapping it right at the top. Like, you know, when they make birthday cakes and stuff.
Start the second one?
Yeah, start the second one if you've got that first one done.
And you always start at the outside, right?
Start at the outside and work your way, because that center piece has that little nick right in it that kind of anchors it.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so that's the my first pine cone. Now to do one more. These are a little time consuming, but that's what makes it fun, right? If it were pre-formed, it wouldn't be as cool. Although after doing 3 of them, you'll be like, okay, that's enough for tonight. But they just add such beautiful texture and dimension to your project that, you know, sometimes it's worth putting in a little bit more work. That's why we do this. It's our fun little happy place, right? Where'd the night go?
Sometimes it's more trying to figure out what to do once you can figure it out reliably.
Finding all this stuff.
Yep.
Yep. You know, people laugh. I bet you that the January class project, actually, I've had sitting out. It's taken me almost a month on and off. Like, I'll do a little bit, go back to it. Do a little bit, go back to it. Yeah, probably a good. I know last week, or maybe it was the week before, I spent a good 3 solid days. And I mean, this is my job. So when I say a day, I mean an 8-hour day. Sitting in, because I am not a fast designer. I'm one that hums and haws over everything. Yeah. So it takes days to do projects. And especially as a class, because you've got to, you know, keep track of the measurements and.
One neat thing about this pine cones, I never thought about the using a toothpick.
Yeah, the toothpick is great.
Because then you can kind of stick it in something. Like
Mm-hmm.
that,
Yeah, and I actually cut the toothpick off, but you could keep it as a pick.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
you could keep it as a pick.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a really good idea, depending what you're using it for. But on here, we cut them off.
And I mean, even if you want to ink it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Absolutely. And if you wanted to use coordinations cardstock, Tim does a lot of his with the coordination so that when you die cut it before you start, curling those edges, if you sand the surface, because of where the highs and lows are with the dies, if you sand the surface, it almost collects more around the edges. So the edges of your pine cone have a slightly different finish.
That's a good idea. I've seen it done with the holly leaves.
Mm-hmm. Just wrapping this around.
And actually, when I was in the States, they had his all in different sizes. They had the Tim Holtz 12 by 12, then they had strips, and then they had 5 by 7s, all in that coordination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. They come in all different. Yeah. Okay. Now, before I play around with the pine cone, I just want to show you. Sorry, girls, this light here is not the greatest light. But see, you can tell that it's a little bit further down the stem, but if I wanted it as a rose, I would simply push it higher up. Then it looks more like a rose than if I pull her down, it's more like a pine cone, right?
Cool.
Yeah. And we'll do it as a rose again some other time. Come springtime. I'm just reaching across. All the little webby bits from the glue.
Actually, I put a little bit underneath because this one I didn't. It moves
Oh,
around
it
more.
springs
But you
around.
put a little bit.
A little dollop so it hits the tip of the toothpick and it anchors it there a wee bit.
Yeah.
See, I wound this one a little bit looser and it's a little bit easier to get into those little petals to curl them back. So, because no two pine cones are the same, that's totally fine. There's no right way or wrong way. It's just a matter of how you want that particular pine cone to look. Okay, so that's set aside. So we've got our 2 pine cones, our little die cut bits, okay, and are these dry enough? These are almost dry enough to start to work with. They're a little damp, but that's okay. I'm just going to add a little bit of ink around the edge just because I'm particular that way. Not a lot, just enough to change it up. Okay, so this here is the tag we are creating, just to refresh your memory. So I'm going to set this over to the side a wee bit so you can see it off in the background. I am going to start by putting a strip of red line tape right across the bottom. Can I get that from there, love? Thank you. This red line tape right across the bottom is going to hang the scalloped ribbon that we stained with the distress stain. This time I am putting it on the front of the tag. Last time we did it on the back, but this time, because it has a pretty shiny, shiny kind of finish across the top of that trim, I thought it looked a little Christmassy, so I left it out that way. Oops. Don't rip it off the paper like I just did. Ay, ay, ay. Good job, Trisha. See, I've been up since 4 a.m. this morning. That'll teach me, huh?
Okay.
I'm an insomniac.
You got too many things going on.
Yeah, I really do. And my husband snores.
Mm.
So, and for whatever reason, for about the past month, boom, 4 o'clock, my eyes are wide open. Without fail.
What time do you usually hit the bed?
No, 4 o'clock in the morning, usually before 10 I'm in bed. Or around 10. I might go up to bed like 9:30, but sleep by. I've never been a night owl though. Oh, are you?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm always
1 o'clock.
really.
Okay, so put that on the front.
Yeah, so I've got the little scallop trim hanging off the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have a little piece of almost like pine garland ribbon.
You
it
want
is
to put that on top?
wire. Yeah, I just kind of run it across the top of that trim and wrap the ends around the back. And then using my stapler, I'll just staple those ends. I just love this little pine garland. I just think
You
it
just
adds
get it like this, like
Yeah,
So
I
what-
actually bought it in Australia on my
cool.
first trip just over a year ago. I had something similar years ago. It was actually mini holly garlands like that on the wire. And you know, I've never been able to find it since. You remember that store, Lewis Craft?
Yes.
Yeah, I
You
bought
find
it
it
there. And of course, they've been out of business for a few years now. So I've never found it since. But I found this pine garland in Australia, and I bought the store out of it. Yeah. Okay, so I've got my little bit of garland across the bottom. Might as well. How dry is that? The ribbon's still. Ah, the ribbon's dry enough to go through the hole. Uh-oh, did I lose you girls? I'm afraid I might have shut you down. Oh no, this is a different screen. I thought I lost you. Okay, so I am just going to feed this seam binding through the hole up top. Now the cool thing about seam binding is you don't need it to be totally straight, so crumpling it up adds a little bit more fun to it, I think. Okay, so we've got the seam binding through, so now we can start to build our embellishments. Now, truthfully, I almost think it'll be easier to build it directly on the ornament and then pop it up into place. So that is what I'm going to do. What we will need is our 2 pine cones that we just dipped. And I actually just take my scissors, and this is why these ones aren't sharp, because I do things like this. So don't use your finest scissors.
Uh-oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. No worries.
We'll find it.
Yeah, I got to sweep up later, so it's not a big deal. So we've got our 2 pine cones. Basically, we are just going to build a little cluster with our different bits of greenery here. And I think the easiest way to do it is I'm going to put a little dollop of glue right at the top of my ornament. And then you got to work relatively quick, right? Do you see how I've got just a little drop of glue up there? That, pardon me, is going to allow me to get these in to place. And then this little funny sprig here, I think it's easier to work with in 2 smaller bits. So if you cut it, there really isn't. It's just a matter of playing around and getting it how you want it, right? Yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong at all. It's all a matter of preference, my friends. Once you've got your greenery in place, see how I've got that there? Again, no right or wrong. You are then going to take your 2 pine cones that you created and then that little Prima flower. Now I actually went ahead and sprayed this Prima flower with the gold lame color shine, the pink paisley color shine. I pre-sprayed them for everybody, so it just made it a plain white flower, a little more Christmassy. So again, best way to do this is a little dollop of hot glue gun. Whoops. Yeah, that would be my kind of look. Yeah, it's probably toast now. That's okay. I'm not worried about it. I've got the original to show you. And did I stick it in my hot glue gun? I should move that out of the way. I just stuck my hot glue gun right in that Merry Christmas that was setting aside to dry. That's a good job, huh? All right, so just taking those pine cones and gluing the 2 up top, and then we'll put a drop of glue, because I'm sure that's already dry, on the back of that rose. And kind of put that into position too. Now, as pretty as that is, here in the Great White North, we have white Christmases, so there's always got to be a little bit of snow kicking around. Not necessarily by choice, but mind you, I don't know if I would like a Christmas that wasn't white now. I don't think I've ever really, I've lived in Edmonton my whole life, so.
There's that one year back in the 80s.
Yeah, well even, yeah, I guess, okay, my son just corrected me. I lived in Victoria for 1 year as a kid, but for the most part, and I remember it would have been 99, we went to Calgary because I was pregnant with Carter. And it was like 15 degrees. My husband was wearing shorts on Christmas. That was
the year after, the same year that we had that tornado. So we ever got it in like 87.
Yeah, that
was, we had a no snow here.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember taking my parents with you and my mother taking them out to show them where the tornado went through.
We lived a couple blocks from there.
We did too.
Yeah, we were up in Fairview then. Not a good day in this sea. Oops. Okay, so I have got my picket fence distress stain. And just to add a little, just little touches here and there. I don't want to pile on the color. I just want it to look a little bit like snow. You can use.
I was going to say, is this mine? I can't remember if this is mine or not.
I put one out for you.
I think this
so,
is yours.
Yeah. I put one out. Okay. So just a little dollop of white here or there, just on the tips. And I kind of blotched it a little more than the other one. If you wanted to take it a step further, you could also take the distress stickles. This is picket fence. Picket fence is going to dry a little bit white. And I just kind of put it in between my fingers and dab it here or there. And again, it'll look a little bit like snow or ice crystals once it dries. Of course, having clean hands is probably a better idea than the red I have on my hands at the moment, because of course it's altering the white ever so slightly.
How did you get the white coat? Mine seems to be clear.
When it starts to dry, shake it up really, really well, because you'll notice all the pigment is probably down at the bottom.
Okay. Kind of like the other. Oh, there.
You just dab it on. Okay, so once we've got a little bit of white there, I went ahead, I used my foam squares to attach that to the edge of the tag. Now here's the thing with the foam squares, girls. You want to be mindful of where you are placing that adhesive, because if you flip it over and look on the back side, half of it's hanging off. So you want to make sure you're not putting your adhesives on the side that's going to be hanging off. Whoops. So if the left side is hanging off, we want to, can't look at it upside down. Yeah, left. You could, but then it's kind of funny shaped. You know what I mean? That point down the middle. So it's kind of weird. So I've just got a few foam squares right on the back side. Try to get all those little bits off. Of course, if you're using the distress stickles at home, don't do it until you're ready to set it aside to dry. Otherwise, you get it all over your fingers like I just did. Matches my nails though. I got glittery nails for Christmas. There we go. Just do this. Okay, so we're just simply attaching that ornament down along the left edge of your tag. And then we are going to take our little number tag, and again I used pop dots. Just a few on the back. So are you ready for Christmas, Lori? No.
It's going to come whether we're ready or not.
I barely started. We put our tree up the other night. I haven't done any decorating. None.
Put a tree up now.
Yeah. We got the tree downstairs this year. I'm kind of happy not to.
So you want to put it all on the back here?
Yeah, I put the adhesive directly onto the back of my little ticket. And I'm just going to tuck that upper left corner of the ticket ever so slightly underneath the corner of your ornament there. And then just pop it up into position. Now I'm going to be straight up with you, girls. This little joy to the world. If you're going to pop it up, you're going to hate me. And it's going to take you a very long time. Because these letters are so very thin, you have to cut your pop squares or pop dots, foam squares, whatever you want to call them. You could simply use a glue pen and just glue it down flat. However,
It looks nicer pop.
I like the pop. Once it's popped up into place, I then went ahead and used glossy or crackle accents over the surface. For the sake of this class tonight and actually finishing sometime before midnight, I'm not going to put this on tonight. Okay, this is the finished project. Oh, you do have a little paper or clothespin, sorry, and that I put right at the top of that ticket. Just like so, just because a little more fun, right? So anyways, I am not going to glue this joy to the world on tonight. You, of course, know where that goes. So you can do that part for homework. If Lori wants to keep going with it, hey, power to her. But I'm going to clean this up, and we are going to carry on to tag number 4. Fortunately, tag number 4 won't take us as long, so we're good. Gorgeous, isn't it?
I just kind of split them
Yeah.
And then the clothespin just goes on the top?
Yeah, the clothespin just gets tacked onto that little ticket up at the top there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're able to leave it out to dry, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and crackle or glossy accent. Crack, crack. Yeah, I used to always love saying that.
Crack-a-lack-em.
It's just fun to say. Crackle
Okay.
accent. Okay, so the last little pouch we should have will be the shabby chic tag that says Noel. In here, we have all these beautiful little bits and bobs. Now, you want to be careful because there's a couple of like loose pearls. Oh no, I put them in a baggie. See how he's smart. There's some pearls, tiny little, almost like a chandelier teardrop, some die cut letters, and a jump ring. Do not lose these pieces. That's probably why I was actually thinking ahead and put it in a little plastic baggie. So just set that aside for a moment. This one actually I did pretty good on seeing. I forgot about this one. This one I folded your little die cut pieces together and used a paper clip to kind of fold them in place. So you can set that little cluster aside just for a moment. You've got your other ornament shape. Now the one we just worked for in the previous tag, notice the other one was long and skinny. This is the one that also comes on that exact same die. So you've got the short stubby one and the tall skinny one. There's always a group like that, isn't there? You've got a little cluster of trims. I held it together with a little pearl pin here. Now I'll just point out you've got the pink paisley scallop trim, and I stamped that for you. Normally it's just the plain muslin, and I went through and used Tim's snowflake stamps with the coffee colored archival ink and just randomly stamped little tiny snowflakes just to give a little bit of visual interest there for you, okay? It's a nice way of changing it up. Then you've got some lace and tulle and ribbon in that little chunk. So set that aside. You've got your ornament, your couple little flowers. You don't want to lose those, so be sure to put those off. First thing we are going to do, don't hate me, my friends, as much as I love this doily, there's about 1,000 little holes you have to poke out. No, this is Couture Creations.
Oh, okay.
Couture Creation dies, and they are, as mentioned, that was that Australian company. Right. I know there are stores that have them in Canada because that's where I bought this particular one. This was actually Urban in Edmonton I bought, and I noticed they had quite a few. Yeah. This was the first, well, I shouldn't say the first time I've used their stuff. I taught a class in Australia at one of the wholesalers who happens to own the own Couture Creations. So I was fortunate that they sent me some to try out. So I taught in Australia with it. Then I saw this doily die at the Great Canadian Scrapbook Carnival, actually, in Calgary. When I was there, Urban had it in their booth, and this die became mine. But it is going to take you a few minutes, okay? You know, don't hate me. But as you can see, once you get the holes poked out, see how pretty that is? And again, another little trick with these particular dies, and I should have pulled the die out to kind of show you tonight. But this is one of those dies that you will want to take the die, put a sheet of wax paper over top of the die, and then the paper you are actually die cutting. Otherwise, because there's so many fine detail areas, your paper can almost get stuck. The wax paper really helped it pop off quite easily. And the other thing I've used is also because I use a lot of the Ranger sticky back canvas, like for example, die cutting all those ornaments that I'd put on the chipboard, I've actually started saving the release paper. The release paper from
'cause
stickers
it's
and the
got a
sticky
bit of-
back canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I see what you mean.
Yeah. It worked out
'Cause
perfectly.
It's almost like a
It's got a bit of a
shine to
uh-huh.
it. Yeah.
So it slid right off there, just like butter. Those little things that, you know, you used to throw in the trash all the time, and now, as if I don't save enough. It's not good for us hoarders, you know. Come up with creative uses for things that you'd normally toss out.
My husband calls them a store.
Mm-hmm. That's why I have a garage sale every year.
That's why I can come about.
I've actually been good though. I think my garage sale's getting smaller. I didn't have as much stuff as I have years in the past. I don't shop as much as I used to. I've really curbed my shopping. I've learned that if I keep buying, it's going to end up in my garage sale. Because, and you know where I'm different is I teach and design. So, you know, with this being my job, I love it, but I just don't very often get the opportunity to scrap for myself. So, so much of it is just work related, and I have to use certain products that I happen to love, but I don't go and buy things unless I know for sure I'm going to use it now. I don't just buy it because I love it, because I know that there's a very strong possibility that I won't get to use it. Because there's just not enough hours in the day.
For sure.
Almost done, girls. See, this is time consuming. You poor ladies that have been watching me poke holes out. How boring is that? I should have done through the magic of television. Had one all pre-done, huh? Last one. Sometimes get stuck on the back side. But at least if the majority of them are out, that's all I'm worried about. You don't need them all. And I'm vacuuming tomorrow, so, you know, if it ends on the floor, I'm not worried. Okay, so that's that piece there. Brown ink. You know, we've been using walnut stain all night long, but I think that I am going to switch it up and move to something more like frayed burlap. Just because walnut stain is really dark, and I think I would prefer something a little bit softer. And I'm just going to add a very, very light amount of ink to the surface, because remember, I want this to still look white. I want it to maintain its soft romantic feel. I don't want it to look dirty. There's nothing pretty about brown snow, right? And just lightly going around the edges. So really you could use whatever color of ink you want. I've got frayed burlap here. Gathered twigs is another one. Brushed corduroy. That almost looks like maybe I might have used brushed corduroy on the original. Just a softer brown. That's what you're after. You want to use this one? So I just added a little bit of the brown, not a lot. Kept it pretty white looking. Just a touch. And then you'll also want to add maybe a little hair of brown to your doily, as well as your little ornament just around the outer edges. You can add a little bit. What I want to show you next is this beautiful snowflake die. This is one of the rosette snowflakes. And let me just add a little bit of brown ink here just to the edges of my ornaments real quick. This snowflake die that I was just mentioning there, you may have seen those rosette type flowers, you know, the accordion fold ones. This is very similar. However, when it's folded up, instead of being just a circle, it's going to give you that snowflake type appearance. So, oh, it's beautiful. And actually, I learned, and I didn't realize this when I bought mine, there's actually two. There's the large one that we're working with, and then there's another strip of the dies that has two smaller ones. So there's a total of 3 different sizes of snowflakes.
And they're all sold separately?
Well, the large one is on one strip, and then the second strip has the 2 smaller ones. So just a touch of that brown ink around the doily. We've got it on here. Okay, so your little snowflake. In that little cluster that was all clothespin together for you, there's a strip. This is the 7 Gypsies paper tape again. So just going to remove the backing. Thanks for staying tuned in there, girls. I'm sure this is there we go. Okay, so I've got my paper tape, and we are just going to reinforce this paper by putting a strip of this paper tape on the back side. So you'll notice the back side of this particular paper is almost like a map pattern. And the reason we're doing this is depending on the paper, sometimes when you go folding along those score lines, it can break or almost rip a little tiny piece off, and it can become quite frustrating. So putting either tissue tape or washi tape or paper tape as we're using. And then you are simply going to take that little snowflake and accordion fold. Just fold along those little lines back and forth all the way around. I might sneeze. I can feel a sneeze brewing. Will it away. Most people it wouldn't matter. My sneezes I inherited from my grandfather. Just saying the word, I have a papa sneeze, gives you an indication that it's not a dainty little thing. Yeah. Caused a pretty good car accident with me sneeze once. I was the laughingstock of my insurance company. Okay, so I've accordion folded this entire little rosette. Then I'm going to take a little tiny piece of my red line tape, find the end, yeah, it does help an awful lot. I'm going to take my red line tape and just put a little strip on the one end, okay? So I've got my red line tape. Then I'm just going to fold it around and match up those ends. So now I've got, it almost looks like a little crown, doesn't it? You could make it into a crown, I suppose. Then, next step, I gave you a punched circle. You're going to put a dollop of hot glue gun on that circle. If I need more. Let me grab another glue stick here. Hang on. I'll put some in this basket because I figured we might need it. Oh, yeah, just good old dollop of it.
Did you say little?
Oh, big,
Yeah.
little. It's all relative. Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, hard to see that, isn't it? There we go. Just put a little dollop. This is where it gets a little tricky. Does take a little bit of patience and coordination. I'm going to kind of squish those little zigzags all together. And it's almost backwards. Because, play around with it and push it so that eventually it's going to lay flat. Come on, baby. And of course, now she doesn't want to work. It is a little bit frustrating until you kind of get your rhythm going. There we go. Squish it all in. And then if I can get another little dollop of glue on my, okay. Can you do me a favor and push that glue stick in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me. There we go.
So what side? The white side?
Yeah, I kept the white side up. Then I put a little bit of glue on the back of that tiny die cut snowflake. And then I'm going to put that on the top.
Ouch. Does that come in with, that come?
That comes with.
Okay.
So you have to punch the circle or die cut two of the little snowflakes that we just did there.
Right.
So it's not as bad as it looks. It's just, again, one of those things you do a couple of them for practice and then it's easy peasy. It's a lot of fun. There are a couple little parts to poke out here. And that's why your paper piercer comes in handy. And again, if you want to add a little tiny bit of ink just to kind of keep it consistent with the rest of your project. And then it's a matter of starting to build our tag. We've got our snowflake, we've got our ornament, our little doily, and our base. So in your pile of ribbons, just take that pin out carefully. Sorry, love. There's a sheer ribbon and then like a set knee tight. You are going to simply poke those through the top, and I just tied it, not into a bow or anything, just very simply just wrapped it around and called her done. And then I angled the ends. You could notch them if you wanted, but again, like I say, I just kept it simple. I suggest cutting the sheer and the satin at the same time so your ribbon stays about the same length. Okay, so there is the ribbon at the top. Then we are going to take our doily and we want to offset it again. It's going to hang off maybe about as much as an inch or something off the back side, and it's pretty much right up to the top, maybe a little bit higher there, somewhere in there. Just find your positioning. You can use regular adhesive. I thought I brought a tape runner out with me. Did I bring a tape runner? Maybe not. Oh, there it is. So just a little bit of adhesive on the back side. And glue your doily into place. Notice how it's hanging off that edge there ever so slightly. Then I am going to take my ornament. Actually, before we put the ornament on, let's keep it simple here. Wait for Lori to get her doily on. On the back side, let's do our adhesive and create a little ruffle across the bottom of our tag using the scalloped trim that has been stamped for you.
Yeah. No, I'm whispering.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, so I've got my scallop trim. We want our scallops to hang down off the bottom of our tag, okay? So basically you're just gonna line up the ends and just gather and pucker as you go along the bottom edge. The nice thing is you can lift it and reposition slightly if you need to do that. See how we've got the little scallop trim hanging down off the bottom? Then we will take some of the white lace, and guess what we're going to put that one on with? You guessed it, the handy dandy stapler. Tiny attacher right across the bottom. That just anchors it into place there. And already you could almost leave it just like that. I think it's so pretty and soft and lovely. Okay, so we've got that one on. Now we can go ahead and pop up our tag. Now we want to make sure that we leave enough space for our letters down here because we're going to spell the word Noel. So you want to allow, I'd say almost 2 inches between the top of that lace and the tip of your ornament. And it is going to be offset here, so the point's probably going to be about 1 inch in. Just so you know, placement wise. Near in the home stretch, my friends. Near in the home stretch. Okay, so our little ornament, like I said, probably about 2 inches from the top of that lace. Somewhere in here. That's where we're going. Then when we go to put on our snowflake, because we already have the width of the chipboard and then the 1 layer of pop dots, we are going to want to double the height of our pop dot on the back of the snowflake so that it lays flat. That's my little thing. And then it's pretty much centered in the middle of that doily. Something like that. That's where we are going. Then you've got your little embellishment baggie, and you want to take one of the larger pearls and I am going to use the glue gun just because it works so much better. Sorry for reaching across the camera like that. I'm not giving anybody more of a view. Hopefully not. Sorry if I did, girls. I didn't think of that earlier. Leaning over. Well, we're all girls. It wasn't intentional. It's not that kind of show. Taking out the word Noel, I'll set that aside. Now, we've got some of our flowers here too. See my scissors? These are the ones I use to cut my wires on my flowers. Now it's just a matter of building our cluster. These are little prima flowers. Oops, it's okay, I heard it. Where'd it go? There it is. There you go. These little prima flowers I am going to put on with my glue gun. But I kind of like to lay them out and figure out exactly where I'm putting them before I glue them right into place. So I know in this particular case I want to come from the top of that ornament, right? So I'm going to put, I will not lean across the camera this time, I'm just going to steal the glue gun for a moment. Is that a big one? Just these two. Oh, the big one right there. Little couple of dollops of glue. Ooh, 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 that one hurt. Ouch. I burned my finger. That's okay, I got another 9, right? Okay, so I'm just building my cluster of flowers there. And I left, here, if you give me a second, I'll kind of show you. Ooh, that one was a good burn. I left a little bit of an opening in between those 2 tiny white rosebuds, because in there I am going to put a little bit of tulle. And really, you know, I'm a cheater with this stuff. I like to use it just to kind of add a bit of softness and fill things in here or there. So if you kind of take it, I just cut off a little tiny piece. Yeah, it's hot, isn't it? Cut off a piece, not worried about tying a proper bow. I want it more just for the fluff. And then put a little tiny drop. And this is where, you know, feel free to switch to regular glue so you don't burn your finger anymore. But, you know, and then I'm just going to stick it in there. Just to have that little bit of softness. I don't know if you can pick that up on the camera there. But that little bit of softness I think is nice. Another bit of texture that adds some prettiness to your project there. I'll just trim that here. Then you have little pearls and that little tiny chandelier crystal in your baggie there. If you want to try to get that jump ring, there's a little tiny hole at the top of that crystal, and you can feed that jump ring through. And actually, technically, I guess with the jump ring, I jumped ahead with that bow, and I think I had actually put it on there as well. Yeah, tied it through first, but there's enough tulle there that really you can tie another little, or cut another little piece, just another strand, and tie it through the jump ring. Nobody will know. It'll be our secret. Dun, 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 dun. A little bit of bling bling. A little bit of bling bling, my friends. Hey, it's Friday in Australia already.
Uh-oh, the world ended.
No, they're quite all right. Last I heard, they're all good, right? Isn't that ridiculous? It's funny. Oh well. Good marketing gimmick for a while though. Probably sold an awful lot of toilet paper. I'm so bad. You can tell I'm tired. I start to make really silly jokes. Yeah, it's all good. There we go. See, I got that pretty little crystal, so I'm just gonna work that in. Oh, just lost my ladder. Another little dollop of glue. I'm gonna put it right in between there. That little dollop of glue will hold my chandelier. And I just take something, kind of poke it in, because I'm not really after the bow as much as I am the tulle. And then those little pearls can get stuck in the glue as well. I might need another little drop of glue. Whoa, might be a little too much glue. 1, 2, and you should have 3 smaller ones that'll.
Is this showing? Not really. Huh?
What?
I could put a couple pearls there. It's supposed to show like that.
Oh, the tulle?
Yeah, the dollar, the jump ring of it.
I'm not as worried about the jump ring, I don't think. I don't think that's a huge deal. Totally up to you. It's already looking so pretty though. Do we see that? Then what we're gonna do, I dropped my, oh. Pick it up, we're doing all right. We have the letters. Now these were another Tim Holtz die. You tell I used to be on the Sizzix design team. I happen to, but you know what? They're great dies. They're fabulous shapes.
Yeah. You have them forever.
They're superb quality. They cut through just about every material. You really can't go wrong with them. But anyways, this is another one of Tim's dies. It's the word play. It's a large die that has all the alphabet on it. So you can never go wrong with something like that, as far as I'm concerned, because you'll use it over and over and over again. So you're going to ink the edges of your letter, and before you glue it down, I always say position your letters, because I believe it's a pretty tight fit and they almost have to overlap ever so slightly. And for the sake of, you know, the magic of television, I am not messing around with letters tonight. So you will be simply popping up your letters across the bottom of the tag. And then if you so feel inclined, it's not necessary, but if you wanted to, you could take some of your picket fence, or in this case, I used the clear rock candy distress stickles, and I just smoothed it over the letters and a little touch here and there around the snowflake and on the flowers. And that'll add, you've seen how the camera's picking that up on Noelle a little bit there? It'll add a little bit of bling bling. Lastly, on this one that I didn't yet do on the top, if you wanted, I have another little piece of tulle coming out of that upper right hand corner, I guess that would be. And then I took that curly stick pin that was holding your ribbons together and kind of tucked it in. Where did it go? Kind of feed it through the little chunk of tulle here. And my husband, kids, and dogs are all quiet. I really hope Finn didn't get it. I will not hear the end of it. You watch. It's not my fault. I didn't know the door was not closing properly down there.
Where did you put the pin?
I just kind of tucked it through that piece of tulle and then almost stick it through that pop dot that's there. Just have a bit of fluff coming out of the top of your ornament there. Very pretty. And then with your letters across the bottom, once those are on, then that one is finished. So the only thing missing is the letters. This is a beautiful tag. I think it will be adored by whoever the lucky recipient is, assuming you're willing to give it away. I'm going to put those letters in there so I don't lose them. Maybe I want to change up the words on that one. Maybe I'll do, I don't know, joy or peace or something like that. Oh, I also gave you a little itty bitty mini tag that you could stick in. Oh, on this one I stuck it in with the pin. Okay. But if you don't use it, nobody's going to know. All right, so that's that one. So I think all we have to do is go back and just glue that first one back together because our lantern and everything should all be dry enough to work with now. So let me just gather the parts. Bum, bum, bum. Now my Merry Christmas, I think I pretty much destroyed it. It might be okay. We'll see. All right, so we're going back to card number 1. Just peel the paper towel off the back of my lantern from where the wet paint stuck. Let me just, I've got a couple of emails here, so I want to see if it's from this class. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Oh, you did get the shot, Sherry. All right. Well, apparently the girls made an appearance. So I apologize. That was not meant to offend anyone.
At first?
No.
Oh, when you leaned over.
At one point, leaning over, the girls made a...
Oh, well.
I'm sorry. In no way, shape, or form was that meant to happen. They're there, though. It's, you know, they're put away, but sometimes beyond my control. Anyways, we've got our little chipboard lantern in your baggie of bits and pieces. There is a little piece of white paper. It's probably almost curled. This is actually the new frosted film from Tim. Yeah, it comes on a roll. It's really cool stuff. It's a massive roll. Probably more than we're ever going to use. But it's really funky because when you peel it off, see how it's pretty frosted there? And I'm just applying it to the back of that lantern and then trimming off the excess. Remember how I said kind of go at an angle? So you don't have to try to get into all those little nooks and crannies. It does, yeah. It's got that release paper. Now the only downside to this, of course, is the parts that are kind of exposed. Hold on. In between, like I call them the little panes of glass. You know, the little bits that are in between these little black lines, they're still going to be sticky in there. So just be careful. On one of the ones I did before, I was using glitter the same day, and some flakes of glitter had gotten on there. Made a little bit of a mess, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so once you've got your little panes of glass on there, we can go ahead and pop this up, and we are going to attach it over towards the edge. of our tag. Now we don't want to go right to the bottom. You probably want to be about half an inch up because you're going to be putting some garlands down there. So leave about a half-inch space. Trim these down here. You can what, sorry?
You can see it more when you turn it over.
Yeah. Alrighty, so there's our little lantern, leaving at least about a half-inch at the bottom. I'll flip it over, put a strip of adhesive across the lower bottom, or the lower back edge. And we are going to hang off, you have some black pom-pom trim in your little bag.
Half an inch down.
Leave a half-inch showing at the bottom. Okay, because we're going to put some garlands down there. Oops. So you've got the black pom-pom trim and the golden garland. Oops. Butterfingers here.
So you put the black on first?
Yeah, I put the black on the back. Say that 5 times fast, huh? So I've got my little pom-poms hanging out the bottom there. And then I will take my little golden garland and staple it across the bottom. So we've got a garland across the bottom. Pull out all these little bits here. I'll tie my red and black ribbon through the hole at the top. Come on, red, you need to go in too. Just tying that. These ones I did the little V cut in the ends. I don't think it matters what you do. Let's keep it simple. I'm just going to do a little. There we go. Now we are going to build our little cluster up top. And I gave you this little piece of greenery with the red berry. That was off of a cherry, or what are they called? Like the picks, you know,
Oh, yeah.
the Christmas,
Christmas.
or I had a big long stem. So I just thought the green was really pretty on there and worked well.
Did you stain it?
No, it came like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I thought it was a nice little addition. So we started with our little bits of greenery. So I think I'll just add a drop of blue right to the middle of my my knot that I just tied. Remember, you don't want to burn your hand, girls. So take it from me, it hurts. And just start to build your little cluster. And of course, if you wanted to alternate, you know, the shades of green and stuff, if you were doing this at home, you may very well want to, pardon me, die cut a couple of strips so that you've got different shades going on. That would be my suggestion.
Put that one in too? This one?
The little 3-piece is actually for on the lantern.
Oh, great.
Okay, so
The
that
ones are
3-piece of holly, just leave that. That one's for the lantern. But everything else you can kind of work into that cluster up top. And your pine cone. Whoops, that almost shot you, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need that eye, did you?
No.
That's there. Okay, so gluing on my pine cone, I got it hanging down. So I'm going to take this little cherry pick thing, whatever you want to call it. Kind of figure out how you want to position those leaves. I cut it down a little bit just so I could get a little more bulk up top. I think I put another little dollop of glue there. That will allow me to play around. Oh, we got webs going everywhere here, don't we? Okay, so I'm building my little cluster up at the top here. That's what I'm messing around with. Once I've got that on, I need my little triple berry. And I'm just sticking that on with some glossy accents. Little tiny drop. And then I'll put a dollop of glossy accents in the center of that tri-leaf there. And then take those 3 little pearls and drop those in. 1, 2, 3. Scooch them together. See how I just put the holly and those little berries in there? I use the glossy accents instead of hot glue gun because I'm kind of sick of burning my fingers. But it's going to take a few minutes to dry. But when it dries, those or that glossy accents, it will dry clear. So now all I have to do is glue on my Merry Christmas, which did dry. And even though I stuck the cord in it, I think it's going to be okay for the most part. I don't think anybody would know. And you know what? I would almost suggest using glossy accents just to glue it on. You do not need a thick coat on the back. It doesn't need to be all over. Just enough to help it form its bond. You don't want it oozing out the sides, so be smart with the application of it. Sometimes too much of a good thing, not a good thing. Okay. Now, once you've got your adhesive, whatever you decide to use on the back of your Merry Christmas, this is where it gets a little bit finicky. Mine actually broke, so it's just a matter of making sure, oops, that I line up both halves so that R and nobody will ever know.
Must be where it broke.
Did yours break there too?
Yeah. Must just be the bag.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't notice that it. Be able to tack it together with some glossy accents. Now, if it's kind of curling a wee bit because of the cracking, remember how I said the cracking makes it kind of retract a little bit? You could set, sorry, something heavy on top of it while it dries. But there, that's kind of what we're going for. Do we see that there? And it's a little bit shiny. That shiny is from the crackle accents we put on. So that will be your tag when you're all finished. So just to recap, my friends, because that's the 4 tags this evening. Got them all done. I'm kind of impressed. Less than 3 hours too. Which, you know what? Anybody who's done a Trisha class knows that 3-hour classes are virtually impossible, aren't they? Okay, so we've got our Merry Christmas tag. That's the one with the lantern. We painted the lantern with black acrylic paint and then used some rock candy paint over top of it, the distress paint. Of course, if you wanted to use crackle accents, that would be another idea. Blending the blending the distress inks on the background of the tag, then spraying with a little bit of the golden color shine from Heidi Swap. Pine cones, tattered garland, bingo bango. That easy. Tag number 2 was the Believe. This was the pocket tag using the poinsettia die cut. That was super duper easy, not difficult at all. Remember, if you have not done so already and you want to, you can add a little bit of crackle or glossy accents to that red oval frame. Okay. Third tag was our Joy to the World tag. Use some of the distress stain to do the ribbon, the trim, and the ornament. A little bit of inking again. If you have not already done so, you will want to cut apart your pop dots to pop on the Joy to the World. And then when you've got time to leave it out to dry, you can put glossy or crackle accents over top of the Joy to the World. But that's optional, of course. It's definitely not something you have to do. And lastly, the Noel tag. If you haven't already, you will just need to put your letters on, pop them up. Notice they are slightly overlapped. And of course, as mentioned earlier, if you want to use some of the distress stickles and dab it onto the letters or maybe a little bit around the snowflake, that'll add a little bit of glitter and shine. Huge thank you to Lori for coming and keeping me company tonight. And a thank you to each and every one of you girls, maybe the odd gentleman, for tuning in and participating in this class. As a reminder, I do have a few of the Christmas tag kits. If you really like what you saw tonight, you didn't have a chance to get the kit yet, more than happy to ship it to you. The kits are $30. Everything's pre-cut. Everything you need in there to do it is done. So you just have to drop me an email at trisha.latto@gmail.com. In case you missed it earlier, if you were one of the folks that had signed up for the Artsy Adventure Kit Club, first one goes out the week after Christmas, or I guess the first week of January technically is when it goes out. This is featuring Heidi Swap and Pink Paisley, so it's the memory file. Let me tilt this down a wee bit. Memory file album, and there's so much going on in here. It's pretty surreal. So we've got photo mats with the photo stack, which allows you to put in 10 more photos. Beautiful photo area at the bottom with pockets. Lifting it up, whoops, this actually buckles closed or ties closed with this string. Inside, space for more photos, more journaling, more titling. And then at the bottom here, you've got your photo album. Again, this kit is $60. If you sign up for the 6 months, there's a 20% discount, but only until Christmas Eve. Only until Christmas Eve do you get the 20% off with the 6-month sign up. Otherwise, it's, what is it? Normally it's, yeah, $60 a month. I think I have a discount after Christmas Eve, but it's not as much. You'd have to read the blog, artsyadventure.blogspot.com, for all of that good kind of info. And again, thank you to each of you for tuning in. If you have any questions, drop me an email at trisha.latto@gmail.com. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful holiday season with your family and your loved ones. Stay safe, eat, drink, be merry, but don't drink and drive. Give those kids an extra hug, and hope Santa's good to you. Love ya. Bye.